Ethereum is quietly becoming the backbone of the financial system. BlackRock just moved billions onto the Ethereum blockchain, and a lot of people are sleeping on Ethereum. But after this video, you won't. But before we get started, you know what we gotta do. Cue that intro. I want to welcome you to Crypto Secret X, place we talk about crypto. My name is Chris, and I want to thank you for joining me here today. But before we go any further, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. That helps the channel, that helps the algorithm, gets this video in front of a lot of other people. But let's dig into it. Now, when we talk about Ethereum, I want to point some things out to you because many people kind of feeling a little nervous about Ethereum and maybe saying to themselves that maybe Ethereum's dead. Ethereum may not bounce back. But after this video, like I told you earlier in the intro, you want to look at these things because this is one of the reasons why I am DCAing on Ethereum. And it is a great price right now. Now, I'm not a financial advisor, but I am telling you some things that I am doing based upon my research and what I've been doing with Ethereum. Now, I want to point out some key points to you first before we dive deeper into what Ethereum is doing now. Okay, August 24th, financial disclosures revealed that Trump owned between 1 million and 5 million in ETH. And this was through financial disclosures. BlackRock also moved $245 million into ETH. And one of the things that's really big with ETH, I want to get into it, is when we start looking at this, is the institutional adoption. So now when we talk about institutional adoption, I'm talking about Wall Street. And why is Wall Street starting to really pay attention to ETH? One of the biggest things with ETH, and here's something that is starting to take on a real hold within the crypto sector, is RWAs. Real world assets. And I'm going to point some things out to you when we talk about real world assets. What are they? Those of you who don't know, and those of you who may not have an understanding of real world assets. But the stablecoin infrastructure, the chain finance, and the institutional foundations for Web3. Ethereum's been blowing people out of the water over the past couple of years. And also it's a first mover advantage. So now I know there are a lot of other cryptocurrencies that's coming out, and people they talk about Solana, but Ethereum is like the OG of them all. And now they are moving to proof of stake. And so big players are still building on Ethereum, and we're talking about institutions. Let me give you just a few names of those institutions: BlackRock, JP Morgan, Visa, Generate are all building on ETH. And one of the things about ETH is it is the most compliant infrastructure as opposed when it comes to the SEC. And of course, with the SEC becoming more lighter and more clarity, that sets the stage for Ethereum. Now, most decentralized smart contracts, the L1s, thousands of validators. You have no central companies and no active governance. You don't have that with Ethereum like you have with some of the other ones. The most users, most dApps, most developers, most integrations. And also one thing about Ethereum is Ethereum has deep liquidity. Scales through L2s. And those L2s are, and one of the most popular ones out of these three, you got Arbitrum, you got Optimism, but you also have Base, which is Coinbase baby right there, and it's also being built on Ethereum. So when you see this, you see basically that Ethereum is becoming an institutional line in cryptocurrency. The L2 gives not only more speed for Ethereum, but it also gives us security. Now, when we look at Ethereum, you want to look at what they have what they call an enterprise grade infrastructure. And so this is, and these are also, when it comes to the enterprise grade infrastructures, You're going to talk about tokenized tokens like Chainlink, Fireblocks, and Codify, which is also by compliance tools, custody, and then the Chainlink is also with real world assets. Real world assets are really starting to be big, and Ethereum is the main, the L1 that is leading the way with real world assets. The bottom line is the most trusted smart contract L1, fully inoperable, scalable, home to most of the high value liquidity, and a major for institutions and also for serious developers. So that's just the breakdown when we start looking at Ethereum. Now, you also want to think about these things too. When it comes to Ethereum, you also got some digestible segments I'm going to break down for you. But one of the things with Ethereum is the ability to be able to tokenize real world assets. And that's the next $1 trillion opportunity. And when you ask everybody where should they live, Ethereum is leading that way. And here's the case when I'm talking about this. Real world assets, and when I'm talking about real estate, I'm talking about luxury items and goods that people have the ability to unblock these things onto the blockchain. And so also DeFi, deep liquidity, and those things when it comes to Ethereum. I'm going to really break down the real world assets because I know a lot of people struggle and don't have a clear understanding of what real world assets are. So I really want to dig into that because some people think Ethereum price is being manipulated. And I'm going to illustrate that to you, why I don't believe that. There are some things that happen with Ethereum that causes sell-offs. One of the things that really causes sell-offs is when the whale moves a certain amount of Ethereum to an exchange, or exchanges move Ethereum from a cold wallet on the exchange. It signals a lot of traders that they think a big dump is coming. So what do? They prematurely sell. And when they sell, that causes the price to dump. But Ethereum, the top 25 wallets that hold Ethereum, they own 62% of all ETH. 62%. But when I tell you who the top wallets are, the number one is Beacon Deposit. Now, Beacon Deposit, they own the most, and I'm going to illustrate that number on here to you. But that's for staking contracts. So when people stake, you have to pull something out to give the people who stake theirs. That's what Beacon Deposit is. The second exchange is Binance, Bitfinex, and Robinhood. They are the three top exchanges that hold the most Ethereum, which Robinhood has already been talking about some things with the L1 and introducing it within the infrastructure of the institutional system. And so when you look at that, BlackRock is onboarding money onto ETH. World Liberty Finance is buying ETH. Institutions are building on ETH, either on the layer 2s, or they're actually building on ETH because ETH is a proven blockchain. Now, Solana also can onboard real world assets, but Solana is known for shutting down or not being able to handle huge loads. Case in point, President Trump releases meme coin on the Solana blockchain and shut it down. And so we've seen that. And so that makes it viable as SUI steps in. But we're talking about Ethereum. Now, also when we talk about this, Ethereum has three other, which they have some other ones, but these L2s like Arbitrum, Optimism, but Base leads it all. People now are looking at Base, really fired up by Coinbase. It's their baby. And so, you know, with Coinbase, they're going to be actually pushing those things and getting those things going. So when we get into what causes the price to dip, that's one of the things I explained to you. And then also the market. When you get into the market, those things will cause price to dip. But there are some key things that's coming down the pipe that you need to be aware of that could cause ETH price to pump. And here are several key events that's going on with ETH. Number one, May 7th, you have the Pectra, which is coming to ETH. Then you also have the approved of the spot Ethereum ETFs, which those are in early 25. So the intro. So ETH is getting ETFs approved. Institutions are moving in, and it might just be the best time to trade ETH in 2025. All that's happening. The real world assets. Real world assets have just now started really coming out, and a lot of people don't know much about real world assets. They don't have a really good understanding of what real world assets are. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about real world assets, because when you talk about this, a lot of people ask, okay, what is a real world asset? What does it do? And how is this going to help me when I'm talking about getting Ethereum? So I'm going to go through that right now. But before we go any further, I am going to pause for this small commercial break, and then we'll be right back.
Get ready. X Warriors Crypto Secret X is bringing you a new podcast called The Wealth Code, with X and Brenda dropping a fresh new episode about crypto once a week.
I wish I would have bought it at $15,000, like a whole one. You know, okay. I missed that. I really should have bought it at $15,000.
Join this candid conversation about real people unlocking their code to wealth.
Based on history, like people lost a lot of money.
And I think that's one of the things that's harder for like people who've been in crypto for a while. Mm-hmm. It's hard to hit the sell button.
Well, I believe that they don't have the belief that it's going to bounce back up.
Because a lot of people, when I first got into it, told me you're going to lose your money.
Tap in and let's make millions together. The Wealth Code.
Okay, now I'm back, and we're going to be talking about real world assets, step by step, and how they work, and how this is really big. So you talk about things like Ondo, CFG. When you talk about these things, when it comes to real world assets, this is what's I think is going to be the real next biggest thing in cryptocurrency. Kind of like when memes kind of exploded, now you get into real world assets. So I'm going to explain to you a little bit about how real world assets work. And so first of all, a company owns or integrates real world asset, and I'm talking about like a house, a batch of invoices, a T-bill or bond. This is where companies like Maple Finance or Ondo Finance comes in. Okay, so this is the asset origin. Okay, the next step of that is when they're going to go through what they call the tokenization. So you have the property. The property is broken down by square feet. One token will equal, boom, this amount of square feet. And then what happens when you have the ability to onboard that, then you can onboard it and get it into a place where it's able to be sold. And also the value of it can grow, and you're able to sell that. And so that's how real world assets work on the blockchain, and Ethereum is what? Leading the way. And so let's see if I can get here to the next thing where I can show you guys what else, which I think is really good with Ethereum. And I'm going to go over the top holders. We went over that, and I'm going to show you a chart that kind of takes you to that, where you can see what's going on there. But now, let me point out some reason to you why I would buy Ethereum in 2025. Number one, the spot ETF approval. This is huge, with institutional investors now have a green light to allocate to ETH through traditional channels. The open doors to billions in capital, and institutions typically buy and hold. That brings ETH out of crypto Twitter and into hedge funds portfolios. Okay. Number two, here's the second reason I would buy ETH, is because it's infrastructure now. Ethereum isn't just a coin. It rails for DeFi, NFTs, stable coins, tokenized real world assets, identity, and more. The next thing, this is like buying internet bandwidth in the early 2000s. So you gotta look at that. But also, when you look at the roadmap to Ethereum, when they laid it out for 2.0. So in 2015, of course, Ethereum rolled out. They came into fruition with Ethereum 1.0. And then you had the Beacon chain, which was launched in 2020. And then in 2021, you had the proof of stake, which from the proof of stake, actually proof of work became proof of stake. And then in 2022, you had the merge with POS to replace the proof of stake, replace the proof of work. And then in 2023, 2024, you had the sharding. And so now you have the Ethereum 2.0 rollout. So you do see where Ethereum has been making some moves, and that's one of the reasons it is leading the pack. Now, again, I know people think that Ethereum price is being manipulated because the only thing that I see is that you have some early sell-off. There may have been some movement from cold wallets to exchanges. And see, here's the thing. When you have these type of movements, sometimes these type of movements are moved so it will cause a panic sale. So you can buy more. And I told you one of the biggest things that causes a price to drop is the macro market conditions, which we're experiencing now with the tariffs, rising interest rates, stock market down, geopolitical tension. And y'all know what's going on there. On exchange selling pressure, large whales, and when they move, people get nervous. Then you have leverage liquidations. So when you give it the leverage liquidations of leverage positions, then you have the narrative shift, which you have the FUD, changes in the market sentiments, causes some type of FUD. Again, I'll say whale movement. And then you have protocol for specific risks, bugs, exploits in ETH and DeFi. Don't sleep on it. Don't go to sleep. Remember when Solana was $9. Remember when it was mass pandemonium going on with Solana. And we saw a remarkable comeback. Base is there. Base is built on the Ethereum network. Ondo is there. And CFG, real world assets, are built on the Ethereum blockchain network. There are some things coming down the pike. That's why at this price, you don't have to take my advice on it, but mark it down today. I don't know what this date is. Somebody's going to mark it down. April the 8th, 8:50. Ethereum is going to make a tremendous comeback. And those of you who miss this opportunity to get it are going to hate that you missed it. Just like you missed it with Solana. They're going to miss it with this.